Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the Learned Edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
Welcome, all you weirdos, disillusioned super soldiers, and everyone craving more Next Wave talk. It is time to receive your 194th Weird Dose of X, the mutant member of your Weird Science podcast family. I am your moderately prepared host, Jason, broadcasting to you as always from the Wrong Turn studio, perched high atop stately Weird Science Manor. And joining me immediately after stepping out of a neurogenic cloning tank, it's my pal Ruben. Hey, Ruben, how the heck are you today?
I'm doing great.
Glad to hear.
Preparations for suckers, man. You don't need to prepare.
It's a busy time of year. It's a busy time of year. I got curling to do. I got curling to teach. I got some math to teach. I got getting ready for Easter stuff with the church choir. I got all kinds of things going on. So, I fit the comic books in where I can, as we all do.
Did you see that viral YouTube video, or maybe it was TikTok video of like the woman coach like chewing out her player and getting her super hyped up?
Oh, I think I've seen little clips of that. Like, I know what you can do. You don't worry about that. Kind of poking her in the chest sort of look to it. Yeah. I think I've seen it like a GIF.
Is that you when you're teaching your curlers?
Sometimes. You got to yell in curling. That's really the thing I tell people the most is that, when you're the skip and you're trying to yell strategy, people are talking really quiet, like, I think maybe you should sweep now. How about you sweep? But no, you got to sweep, sweep, hard. Yes, you gotta yell. If you don't hear it echoing back at you from the other side of the arena, you're not loud enough. That's my little curling lesson for the week.
That doesn't surprise me, but I love it.
Oh, that's my most fun when I'm teaching new curlers is I have them start to sweep, and then just out of nowhere, I switch my usual talking voice to yelling like that. It's funny every time. Okay, so some things that are not funny all the time, but are funny sometimes, are the comic books, Ruben. Hey, that was what we call a segue here in the business.
Yes, nice.
Today we have 4 books we're going to actually give full-on reviews to. And these are Uncanny X-Men number 25, which wraps up that whole Monsters arc. We have Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon number 2, which is still leading into that big old event that's coming this summer. We have Inglorious X-Force number 3, a rather strange issue focused on Boom Boom, and that's where Next Wave's going to come in. And we're wrapping up New Avengers. I had forgotten that was ending this week, but yeah, New Avengers number 10 finishes that whole series.
I have a pro tip for you.
Oh, okay.
If you happen to listen to the Book of the Month podcast that Stork and Jim just put out, at the very end of that, you should listen to it because they give us a lot of shit, which that's always great. I love intercast banter. But you also have a very short window of opportunity to suggest a book to Jim, and I think he will cover it as a future book of the month.
Oh, wow.
But he did say it cannot be the Power Fantasy My Ass, because
can we make him read Next Wave? Oh, that'll be funny as hell. Everybody, vote for Next Wave for Book of the Month.
Oh, man, do it. That'd be the funniest thing ever.
So the other books there were other X books that came out this week that we may mention them a little bit at the end for, you diehards, your completists, hang in there. We'll say a little bit about them. Those were Rogue, Psylocke, Generation X-23. None of them were amazing. None of them seemed super important in the grand scheme of things, but maybe we'll kick in a little bit at the end there. We'll see. I do have one brief news item today. Marvel announced a new series. Ruben, it's not Sword. I'm sorry. I know you're waiting for a new Sword series. God. It is one of those throwback continuity implant stories. It's by Chris Claremont.
Oh, yeah, my favorite. Oh, God.
Chris Claremont. It's called Gambit, Wanted.
Yeah.
That's Gambit, Wanted. It's going to show what Gambit was up to immediately before his first appearance in the comics, which was 1990, like Uncanny 266-ish.
Right, I have that issue.
And I know he was really super mysterious when he was first introduced, right? There was a whole who is this guy sort of a situation. So,
and he helped out the kidified version of Storm.
Yes.
Escape from Nanny. So good stuff.
All right. So maybe it sounds like you're really the perfect audience for this. So that's coming out towards the end of July will be the first issue of that. I think it's like I didn't write down how many issues. I'm sure it's like 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So Chris Claremont on Gambit coming up. And that's
as much as I give shit to these like continuity insert issues, I do want to go on record to say that I do think Claremont was a very good writer. It's just I hate these things that get shoved in that just don't do anything, right? Because it's not like he can change the status quo, right? I can't think of a single one of these inserts where it's like, oh man, this set like great seeds for some future story.
No, it's just something for those
pointless.
Older fans to kind of go back and get the flavor that they liked.
Yeah. I just always think it's like the crotchety people that's like, oh, the X-Men, they were only good when Claremont wrote. They don't want to read anything else, right? So he has
a particular style, which, obviously changed comics forever, planted all the seeds for all the stories we're talking about today. But to just immediately shift mental gears and read someone writing in that style, it takes a little bit of mental effort for me to kind of put myself back in that time period. Well, let's talk about the books that came out in this time period, starting with Uncanny X-Men number 25, Legacy number 725, Where Monsters Dwell, finale. So I guess 725 is a anniversary number now? Is that worth, putting in the poly bags and saving for your kid's graduation? Because, I bought a 725 because they charge an extra $1 for this issue. They put
an extra story
in the back that we'll mention at the end. It's kind of a nothing story, but there you go. Legacy number 725. It is written by Gail Simone, art by David Messina, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by Travis Lanham. So here's where we stand. We got all these monsters attacking the Uncannies there in Louisiana. I'm going to mute for a second and cough. Excuse me. Unlike Jim, I feel fine. He's got a little bit of season allergies. So we got these monsters attacking. Logan's been bitten by Werewolf by Night. He's now Wolverine, and Wolverine is about to attack Rogue. Elsa Bloodstone is hanging around threatening Rogue too. Ruben, did you know that Elsa Bloodstone was part of Next Wave? Next Wave popping up all over in the past couple weeks.
Yeah,
somebody should really do a podcast on that.
Very important.
It just seems, you got to know about that. Much more Next Wave talk later. Nightcrawler, he's just super scared of Frankenstein. And didn't it seem last issue like there was like a spell on him or some personality altering magic that was making him crazy scared? And that's never explained.
Nightcrawler, yeah.
That just stopped. That just stopped happening.
Yeah, the way it's described here is it really seems to suggest that he just was scared of Frankenstein as a kid, and so it freaked him out for a second. But
I guess it did not seem like that in the first issue. They seemed to be hinting, there's a deeper thing going on, and no, there wasn't.
Yeah. Granted, that being said, if so I have like a childhood trauma of like, or a phobia of,
gray aliens.
If I ever saw a fucking gray alien in real life, I would lose my shit. That's still, yeah.
Fair enough.
I won't even do like any sort of theme ride or whatever, or like Halloween thing that has like a haunted house with gray aliens.
Really? The little gray ones with the big eyes?
Yeah, I don't know why, but those things bug the hell out of me.
Maybe you were abducted. Who knows? Moving on from Ruben's abduction story, Morbius is also here, and he's kind of offering to turn Jubilee into a vampire again. And it almost feels like in between issues, somebody reminded Gail Simone that Morbius can't actually bite you and make you a vampire. Because he's not a real, like, vampire. He's like a science vampire or a living vampire.
Yeah.
So he has this vial of stuff that he's going to say, hey, just drink this vial and you can be a vampire.
I kind of appreciated that. I mean, Gail Simone, I don't know that I love this. I mean, I dropped the Uncanny subscription, so I guess I don't love this like story that she's telling, but I do love that she tries to weave in past and current continuity, and she does try to, pay respect to the status quo of characters. I think she's a perfectly good, fine writer. These stories are not really hitting for me.
It seems like in an arc or two, we're getting back to the big issues that started the run, and I don't know why we're kind of treading water until then.
Yeah. I thought the Grey Malkin prison stuff was interesting. I want to get back to that.
Yeah, if you
And
read
we
ahead
did
and
never-
solicits, it's coming.
Yeah, maybe I will
Allegedly.
resubscribe when that happens. Are we going to
Okay.
finally figure out who Prisoner X is?
Oh my gosh, I hope so. I forgot all about Prisoner X.
Ugh,
Gotta
God.
come up. Okay, so that was Morbius. Gambit's in like a ride fighting the Manphibian. And the Outlier kids, they're inside the house listening to Marcus St. Jr.'s read a comic book, and also parts of the comic book are missing, so he's improvising bits and putting the kids into the story.
Yeah.
So this issue opens with the conclusion of the improvised comic book. Long story short, the fictional kids win the day, defeat the fictional zombies through teamwork and being heroes, and other such cliches. So that completed, Hotaru, Death Dream, calls Marcus's attention to the real problem. He senses death outside, trying to get in.
I want to say these kids I don't think they've ever read a comic book because they're like, oh my God, this is the best story I've ever heard. And I was like, it's kind of a basic bitch story.
They're all kind of sheltered, right? For various reasons. Rich kids sheltered or poor kids sheltered. Yeah, not poor kids isn't sheltered, but, like might not have been, collecting comic books all their lives like some people.
Yeah.
So Marcus goes out with his trusty shotgun to see what's up. And we finally learn who the true villain of this arc has been. And I was right, Ruben. It's been Agatha all along. Okay, I wasn't actually... Oh, here we go.
This isn't Agatha Harkness, though.
It's Agatha. It's an Agatha. So I'm going to take myself half credit for being someone named Agatha.
You get the credit for that, yeah.
This is some character named Agatha Timley. Is it Timley? Timely? There's no E in it, so I'm going to go with Timley.
It can't be Timely, yeah. I stared at that name and I was like, this isn't like a weird Kang connection, is it? And I'm like, it can't be.
No.
But it should have been
Timely,
something else.
Of course, is the old name for what became Marvel Comics, Timely Comics. So, but there's no E in it, so I'm just going to go with Timley.
Yeah,
she
please
calls
do.
herself...
I wish it was a different name because, again, there's too many connotations with Timely.
Mm-hmm. Well, also, when she first appeared, well, we'll get to that in a second. So she calls herself now Lady Darkhold. She's a deep cut, which means it's time for this week's first.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive.
Okay, so
it's like an exhaustive deep dive.
I'm going to blame my tools.
It's like
here.
exhaustive.
Shut up. I'm going to have to try to fix that. Okay, so Ruben, I want you to guess how many previous issues before this arc Agatha Timley has appeared in.
1.
Exactly. Ding, ding, ding. I'm not going to push the button because it's not going to stop. One single issue. It was Marvel Spotlight number 3 from 1972, which I think was the year Jim got his driver's license, coincidentally. It was a Werewolf by Night story. Agatha and her husband Nathan lock Werewolf by Night up in their basement and torture him because they think he knows where the Darkhold is. And she is all about wanting the Darkhold to summon dark gods and all that Darkhold stuff. That's like her one character trait. Loves the Darkhold. Also, in that issue, the first time her husband calls her by name, he calls her Andrea, not Agatha. But then for the rest of the book, everyone calls her Agatha. So, continuity, what's that?
Within your own issue.
Within the same issue. One panel calls her Andrea, everything else Agatha.
I gotta
so
say,
even if you go to the wiki page, it's like, we don't know what her name is either.
Yeah. Was her costume in that original issue this sexy ass costume?
Oh no, this is definitely in that book. She did have kind of like Bride of Frankenstein hair. Mm-hmm. So she had the white stripe in her hair, but it was all up in like a beehive look.
Yeah.
So let's see. The Werewolf by Night escapes from the basement.
I don't. As an aside, I don't find this character that intriguing, but I 100% hope that people try to cosplay this character because this is a good costume.
Hubba hubba, yeah. So the Werewolf by Night escapes. Agatha/Andrea tries to summon the dark gods herself anyway, without the Darkhold, and of course she dies in the process. So here, what happens in this issue we learn is that in the afterlife, those dark gods tortured her for being such a dope to try to summon them without the Darkhold. Mm-hmm. But now they've sent her back to Earth as her sexiest self, which is why she looks like this. Yeah. And they want her to conquer a city for them to live in. That's what she's doing in New Orleans. And that's why she has the Legion of Monsters all under her hypnotic command. So the
is this Lord, let's see, the Dark Lord's chattel? Who are these people? Are these just like servants of the Dark Lords?
Which people?
She references the people who tortured her, the Dark Lord's chattel, their servants on Earth. Is that the name of these people? In the red cloaks and the Pentagon rope across their chest?
I don't understand because their servants on Earth should be the living people, But then it says they tortured me in death, so I don't know why they're in the afterlife too. Chattel just means like servants, lower level, peons, that sort of thing.
Okay. I'm going to say these are just some people that resurrected her and did some voodoo crap that were bad to her.
The peons are the Dark Lords, the ones who worship your Cthulhu-type gods.
Yeah.
But they can't say Cthulhu cause a
You answered my real question, which was when I stared at this, I'm like, are these the people she was trying to summon? Because they don't look that impressive, but you're saying these are just
they're the low-level acolytes.
Spellcasters, yeah. Okay.
So the rest of the issue was unwinding these various fights. Saturang is back. He was at the beginning of this arc talking to Gambit. He's that dragon. He shows up to assist Gambit against the Amphibian, and he swallows the Amphibian whole, and not in a sexy way.
Yeah, he looks different too, right? Is that correct?
That's part of Saturang's whole deal. He can look like whatever kind of dragon he wants to look like, and he thought that this was a good look for this monstery kind of fight.
Yeah, I'm never a fan of when they do that with dragons because I'm like, who is this, right? He has to, every time you see him, you have to be like, oh, it's Saturang. And then I'm like, I'm not sure why he even knows that, right? Like, wouldn't he just be like, oh shit, what the hell is that? And then he's like, I'm Saturang. But
it's
I guess because he was talking in his head.
Yeah, you want a character to have a look, right? Like Fin Fang Foom, silly character, but if you see Fin Fang Foom, you know who it is 100%. Right away.
It's him, yep.
Right. And you can make a connection and say, oh yeah, I'm glad to see that character again. Good old Fin Fang Foom. Saturang can look like anything.
Yeah.
So he's going to spit Amphibian back out 10 pages later. So don't worry, future writers. If you want to use Amphibian in your story, no continuity problems whatsoever. He's just got some dragon spit on him.
Yeah.
So Saturang also wants his Eye of Agamotto back. Original deal was that Gambit was going to hold on to it for a year. And I guess in story, it's now been a year. That's good to know. We've passed a year.
Yep.
And very Tolkien-esque, Saturang is not sure if Gambit's going to be able to give away the eye, very much like, the One Ring.
Yeah.
But Gambit is like Frodo in that he's able to overcome the eye's influence and give it back to Saturang.
Yeah.
Or at least he sure tries to give it back to Saturang. Confusing.
Yeah, I think at the very end it's insinuated that the eye decided it didn't want to go with Saturang and sent him away.
The art did not show this nearly as clearly as I would have liked. Because so Saturang reaches out to touch the eye. We get a loud sound effect, a flash of green light. It looks like the end of Rocky when both the fighters kind of collapse on the mat. Saturang and Gambit temporarily knocked out. Yeah. And we don't see where the eye goes. But then at the end of the issue, like you say, Ruben, it's implied that Gambit still has it. Like the eye won't let him give it away.
Yeah, and he says some stuff about how he's going to make some use of it, some effective use of it.
Mm-hmm. And this
which
was
I'm like, good, because I don't think it's done shit except for replacing Nightcrawler. That's basically what it's been used for.
This is the one part of the story that I thought was actually advancing the plot, but then it kind of just resets to the status quo ante. We're still back with Gambit having the eye.
Yeah. I'm kind of okay with that in the one sense that they made a big deal about this eye and it being something of use, and we never really dealt with it until last issue when suddenly he was like eating cats and
right.
It was a problem. So I guess
this arc does establish that the eye is more nefarious than maybe we thought.
Yeah, and you remember that he has it, and now we know it's caused a problem. So maybe it's going to be a more regular part of the story, which would be
and it wants
decent.
to stay with Gambit for some reason. Doesn't want to be with the dragon anymore. Again, very much like the One Ring. It didn't want to be with Gollum anymore. It wanted to be with Frodo.
Yeah, and that Rogue is not going to be
their Tolkien.
Yeah, and that Rogue is going to be pissed that he kept it, right?
Yeah. Well, is he going to tell her? That could be interesting.
No, I don't think he is. And then I mean, oh God, is this like Gail Simone's going to break up Gambit and Rogue? That would be
no.
That would be some.
They'd go after her with pitchforks and
trolls.
torches.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God.
They would be so angry.
And not like Gail Simone likes when internet trolls go after her. She adores that. But it will be the people. It'll be the other ones, right? The people who usually love her will go after her for breaking up these two. So I don't think she'll do that. They're her people.
Yeah, it's going to be some stuff though. I mean, but again, stirring the pot in a way that I think I'm intrigued. Maybe I'll just resubscribe to this. This is just finish an arc, right?
This is the last arc. Yeah. Okay, so the next fight or the next kind of scene is we're back to Morbius. Jubilee just kind of says, yeah, Morbius, no thanks. I did the whole vampire thing, not really into it. So she uses her sparkly powers to disorient Morbius, make him drop the vampire serum into the swamp.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure that won't have any negative outcomes of vampire serum just flowing through a swamp.
Oh, that's a good point. I
Maybe
didn't even think about that.
That'll
I just
play
thought it
into
was
the whole
gone,
dark
but
artery, right?
yeah, that'd
Dark
be good.
artery plus vampire serum.
Okay.
That could be fun.
I'm there for it. Yeah, let's do it.
So that ends Morbius's whole threat. She says no, he drops the serum, he's out of ideas.
Mm-hmm.
Next, Wolverine does attack Rogue. Some pretty nifty visuals here. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
But then Logan's healing factor kicks in off panel, and he's totally fine.
The only thing that I
That's
didn't
it.
understand about this was he definitely bites her. He definitely draws blood. So wouldn't she become a werewolf too?
I don't know. That's a good question.
So
Or even,
I know that his
she touches a werewolf. She should. I guess she can choose whether or not to absorb powers, right?
yeah,
That's
or maybe
what
she
the
just
thing-
absorbs Logan's powers for a little bit and then purges her own bloodstream.
Don't know.
I just
Good
kind of
question.
thought Logan got bit by a werewolf, and that would like by Werewolf by Night, and that turned him into Wolverine. So you would
Mhm.
think that the same thing would happen when she gets bitten.
Rogue.
Yeah.
You'd think so, but nope, it doesn't. They wanted to have 2 pages of Wolverine as a werewolf. They got him.
Mm-hmm.
We're moving on.
Mm-hmm.
So the Outlier kids, they say, step aside, Mr. St. Juniors. We're the heroes now. And they attack Agatha. And they do pretty well, at least for a little bit. Ransom taking on the Cyclops role, calling out tactics. Calico getting all intimidating with a flaming horse, flaming sword. Jitter calls out a minute's worth of the fighting skills of Black Panther.
Yeah.
Oru doing his spooky ghost thing again. Although she's undead. Does that work with spooky ghosts? Who knows? Doesn't matter because in like a page and a half, they get caught up in one of Agatha's spells. Their heroic moment is kind of finished. But they tried.
Mm-hmm.
Fortunately, now that Logan's feeling less lycanthropic, Rogue is free to grab Agatha's wrist and start absorbing her powers. And I guess I just don't understand the limits on Rogue's absorbing deal, because undead magic lady powers, is that something she can handle? Well, she can, obviously, because it happens.
Yeah.
And once the drain starts, the
It's
hypnotism...
very, very suspect to me. Because she's like, I'm the living Darkhold, which I don't know what that means, honestly, but it just makes me think that, like, a Rogue would not be able to drain those powers. But sure.
Well,
why
obviously,
not?
you're wrong, Ruben, because it happens. Right there. Once that starts, the hypnotism on the Legion of Monsters goes away. And also there's the implication that Saturang the dragon did some anti-hypnosis to cancel out the hypnosis.
Yeah.
So some combination of those things makes the Legion wake up. Legion of Monsters say, oops, sorry about that whole attacking you thing. The X-Men say, no hard feelings. Everyone gets hypnotized by an undead witch every now and then. We've all been there. Rogue considers sending Agatha Timley off to Greymalkin prison, like she's done with some other big bads.
Yeah.
But then she thinks better of it and says, someone call Wanda. Which, Wanda's now the Sorcerer Supreme. I guess she's the person to deal with magic-y stuff.
Yeah, and it's an Agatha, right? So
Right. Any Agathas.
yeah, anyone named Agatha.
Call Scarlet Witch. Makes perfect sense.
She might be interested in that.
She has a collection, right?
Yeah. The thing with Saturang doesn't make sense to me, though, because he was like shown as this like covetous, single-purpose dragon, right? And assuming that at this point Gambit has gotten the eye, why is this dragon just like, okay, I'm going to help
Being
out and
friendly and helpful.
dehypnotize?
That's a good question.
Yeah, I wonder if it's
Yeah.
under the thrall of Gambit, because otherwise it makes no sense to me.
Yeah, because he was a really kind of cool character at first, and that he wasn't exactly a villain, but he certainly wasn't an ally, and then he was kind of rivals with Gambit because he wanted the eye back.
Yep.
So to have him just be like a giant version of Lockheed feels kind of off.
Yep.
So how to score this issue? I think it looks really good. I'm sure that the artist, David Messina, loved getting to draw all these cool monsters, because who doesn't love monsters?
Yep.
The plot just kind of didn't really go anywhere. Everything that was done was immediately undone. Wolverine's a werewolf. No, he's not. Jubilee's going to be a vampire again. No, she's not. Yeah. Gambit's going to give away the eye. No, he's not. So it feels like 3 issues that had some cool monster stuff, but didn't really go anywhere. But
Yeah.
come on, it's fun to see mutants fighting monsters. It just is, and that's really what I'm going to give the score for. And I guess I'm going to give it like a 6.3 out of 10. Hey, they fight monsters. Monsters are fun. How about you?
Wow, somehow I'm the positive guy here. I thought it was okay. Probably the monster stuff and probably the Agatha costume influences my score here. But
Okay.
I'm gonna give it just it's not quite a 7, but maybe like a 6.8.
6.8. Okay.
But it was an enjoyable enough story, but I am excited to get back to the more interesting plot points. I again wonder, like, what was this detour for? I guess just to remind us that the eye is a thing and the Gambit has it, and he's kind of lying to everybody about it.
But we should mention the backup story, at least briefly. It's called They Dwell Too in the Human Heart, also written by Gail Simone, art by David Messina, colors by Rochelle Rosenberg, letters by Travis Lanham. And it's basically like a police procedural story. Local cop looking for mutant help to find his own missing kid. The grown-up Uncannies are all out elsewhere, so the outlier kids chip in. Jitter channeled some detective powers, and there's a scene where like wordplay with a suspect helps her figure out where the kid is. I didn't think that worked at all.
No,
like he says, like, well, she's in a well. I'm a great detective. Oh, okay, that was pretty dumb, Gail Simone. Sorry, I don't buy it. So they go there, they beat up the other kidnapper, they find the girl trapped in a well. They learn there's other murdered girls who are already underground, so Hotaru sets their spirits free. At the end, it's an excuse to have the kids do something. Doesn't add to my score, doesn't detract from it. It does cost an extra $1. I don't think it was really $1 worth of story, but there you go.
Yeah.
So the preview for the next issue promises to answer the question, who has been manipulating the Uncanny X-Men since the beginning? So we are getting back to the big stories, and the cover shows a portion of someone from behind. It's someone who looks kind of smaller and slimmer, maybe either a young person or a woman. And it's someone who seems to be dressed in a black and yellow X-Men uniform.
Very classic outfit, yeah.
Right. Do you have any guesses who this might be?
Jean Grey.
Jean Grey is back. Okay. That could work.
It's definitely a female character. The hip and leg like suggests that. But it's either, I mean, I can't imagine it's Kitty. Although if she's, maybe it could be Kitty because she's sort of in the, oh God, what is that story that we read last week?
United, yeah.
She's sort of in that, but I feel like she could be in 2 books.
Okay.
But I don't know. Is Jean Grey doing anything? That Phoenix story's over, right?
The Phoenix story is over. She was in that one annual.
Yeah.
That's the last time
I'm
we
gonna
saw
stick
her.
with I'm gonna stick with my Jean Grey prediction just because I don't think she's anywhere else.
Okay, well stick with Jean Grey. In a couple of weeks we'll see if you're correct. But for now, Ruben, let's move on to Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon, number 2 of 4. Written by Chip Zdarsky, art by Luca Maresca, colors by Jesus Abertov, letters by Joe Sabino. So, Ruben, tell us what we need to know about Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon.
Sure. I'm continuing to actually like this story, and I don't know if it's exactly street level, but one of the things I do enjoy about it is very grounded. Like, I can tell what the characters are doing, and there's no crazy powers that can't really comprehend. And it's playing with some tropes that you always play with, where you've got Wolverine and his real secret past, which is kind of annoying, but at least you don't have the other side of that coin, which is often Logan like moaning about how he doesn't have his memories. Like, I don't mind seeing Logan's past and playing with the idea of like, oh, he's been everywhere, done everything. Yeah, if you don't have Logan like belly aching about, how he doesn't remember things.
Right. And it's not, oh, this horrible thing I did in my past, because I'm tired of that story, which is what's happening in Rogue again. So, but yeah, we've got this new character, what's her name? Terrio Barnes. And the concept is that she's a mutant tracker who can track mutants. And she was responsible for getting Logan caught by Weapon X in the first place.
Yep.
And there's these other Weapon X-y kind of things going on. This Prime Warrior group is
she
capturing mutants
came to him and
Weapon
said,
X stuff to him.
Yeah, she came to Logan and said, "Hey, it's the private version of Weapon X. Yeah. Like, you're going to want to stop that, right?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course."
Which is a good enough reason to bring these two together, gives them motivation to start, kicking ass and taking names.
Yeah. So I'm gonna it's one of these issues where the story jumps around, past and present, and I'm gonna just go sequentially because that's what we do on the show. So the kind of oldest storyline, which isn't really set in any time, and I don't think this is really set in a specific time of Logan's history that we know about. So it's just like the past. Logan is apparently working for what I'm going to guess is the weapons program. We don't exactly know what organization it is, but he is tasked with retrieving Major Frank Simpson, who later becomes Nuke, from some location. And I'm guessing it's because maybe the weapons program's like looking for people who they think might have the genetic markers to survive like a Captain America type transformation.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't exactly get where he retrieves him from. It sort of suggests, and they're calling him Agent Logan at this point, they sort of suggest that he was in some kind of like military conflict and Wolverine went out there and, pulled him from the front line or something. But in any event, Major Simpson is like injured and his face is all scratched up and he's in effectively what looks like a Bacta tank under the weapons program. And you see the two the two scientists that are in charge of facilitating this like transformation into a new Captain America. We've got Professor Ford, and I don't know if he's a professor, but this guy they're calling Ash.
Yes.
He's sort of the underling of Professor Ford.
Mm-hmm.
And Ford is like a total asshole. Like that's the portrayal of him. He's basically like bitching at Logan, saying like, why is the super soldier injured? And Logan's like, he's in one piece. And he's like, oh, his face is all scratched up. Like he's not going to be the pretty boy like that we need for, the new Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
And Ash is a little bit more like receptive or like kind, not exactly kind, but he's not like just screaming at Logan. And then Ford's like berating Ash. And at this point, Logan's like, okay, I've had enough of being part of this agent team. And, Logan's not one for commitment anyways. So he's basically like, fuck it, I quit. And he does a little monologue where he's like, hey, Nuke, I hope you get better and that, they point you at the right villains. And I'm kind of sorry for, turning you over to the weapons program, but maybe one day they'll point you at me and that'll be a good thing because I kind of have done some shit and deserve to be taken out.
Yeah, I think this does hook up with what we already know of the early history of Nuke. He actually was invented by David Mazzucchelli in Daredevil, of all things. He was a Daredevil villain. But Logan, I think, was already tied in with his backstory. Mm-hmm. He was already tied in with Weapon X-y kind of stuff. So I think this all fits with things we knew. Yeah. I believe Ash is a new character. Ash is being set up as kind of like one of the main villains of this story. And we see him in this past timeline, and we're going to see him in the current timeline. So it's kind of neat the way they're showing us his character. He's part of this weapons program, but he also has kind of his own agenda, his own initiative, and he's kind of fun. Yeah, Zdarsky makes good characters like this. He did a really good Kingpin back when he was writing Daredevil, and maybe that's why. Maybe he wanted to use Nuke for his Daredevil, and maybe this is just a leftover idea that he's bringing forward into this event. Who knows?
Yeah, possible. So then we jump a little bit forward where we see Nuke. I guess he's out of the Bacta tank, and now he's wearing kind of like Weapon X gear, like classic Wolverine Weapons X stuff. And he runs into a bear, and he kind of fights the bear, but then he seems to kill the bear, but he doesn't like totally survive. So he's kind of injured himself, and Ford and Ash retrieve him, and then Ford's all pissed and like slaps Ash and starts berating him, saying like, I thought you were making an amazing Weapon X guy and he can't even beat a bear. And Ash is talking about how like, he can beat a bear if we put the beat a bear training program in him, but we put the beat a human.
Build a bear. That's different. They accidentally gave him the build a bear training. They should have given him the beat a bear training. It's right next to it on the shelf. It's understandable mistake.
Yeah, which I kind of like. I mean, the old classic Weapon X, set up with like the Walkman on the hip pocket and the wires. It always looks hokey, and so I kind of buy that it's not like the best tech.
Mm-hmm.
That you have to plug in what you want it to do. So then they take Nuke back to the base, and this I guess is where we see Ford talking about the pills, which you were telling me last issue.
The famous Nuke pills.
It's kind of a question of like whether they are placebos or they actually do something.
Yeah, different writers have treated them differently, but he always has the red, white, and blue pills because he's a very cynical 1970s kind of comic book character in that he's super patriotic, but in a bad way. So he has the flag carved into his face, and he takes he pops red, white, and blue pills.
Yeah, which I kind of like.
That's what he is.
We're told that the red pill, I guess, is like methamphetamine, and the white pill is like some kind of tranquility drug. And I don't remember what the blue one was. I don't know what that does, but
I looked it up. What I found was red gives him adrenaline, so basically kind of like meth. White calms him down, and the blue, it just says it maintains his normal personality, maintains his normal level, which I don't know how that seems like the same thing as down to me, but
I guess you just got to use it. If you're super down, he's super chill. You got to get him back to like
maybe.
functional.
And I think, again, different writers have kind of tweaked this a little bit.
Yeah. But anyways, as Professor Ford's explaining this, he looks down at his hand. And he's only got the blue and the white pill in his hand. He's like, what the hell? And then during this explanation, Ash is sort of like skedaddled out of the room and nobody noticed. And he like closes the door and locks it. And then Ford looks up and you see like the angry Nuke all methed out. And I mean, I feel like you need more than just like making him angry and adrenaline. Maybe it's because he's got the Weapon X gear on also. But anyways, the implication is that Nuke killed Professor Ford.
Well, he's going to be angry at Ford to begin with. And Ash is angry at Professor Ford because Ford's been treating Ash like crap. So it's a very, I think, well-implied story. We can see what happened is that Ash, gave Nuke the red pill secretly. Yeah. Knowing, well, this is how I'm going to kill off my jackass boss. I'm going to make him do it. Which I think, again, Ash, I'm really enjoying Ash as a character here. He's pretty neat. Yeah.
So then we'll fast forward a little bit to kind of the present. There's a scene where we see Nuke and Ash, they're now with Prime Warrior, and they're kind of, I guess, investigating one of the test labs that's been destroyed by a mysterious arsonist.
Right. So I think I was wrong last time because we have this kid, Tyler, who's been treated with this new adamantium procedure. And he's broken out of Prime Warrior. Yeah. And also one of their labs has been kind of blowed up. Yeah. And I thought that was just him escaping, but it turns out, no, there is a second person involved. So they're out looking for Tyler, this kid, because they think he has the Origin box, which is this bit of tech from the new Ultimate Universe that is what they're using to make these new Weapon X type characters.
Yeah. And I think maybe it's a little cheesy. Some people might not like that, but I actually thought that was a cool little side story. Like, you don't need to know anything about the Ultimate Universe, but I do like the idea of this crazy Origin box is somehow making it into the 616 and then somebody using it in some way.
Does it remind you of DC's mother boxes and father boxes and cousin boxes and uncle boxes? That's what makes me think of, is that the Origin boxes are now these magical devices that transform people.
Yeah. So anyways, they're kind of like talking about, hey, we need to figure out who's attacking all of our test facilities. And they say, like, whoever the arsonist is, he's been covering his tracks. We can't follow him. But we know that, like, Logan was also here and he's not doing too good of a good job of covering his tracks, and we can track him. So let's go follow what he's doing. He seems to be on the trail, right? And so they're off to do that.
Yeah, and Nuke has a particular grudge against Logan for the stuff we see in the flashback. So he kind of just wants to go get Logan. The rest of his team says, we don't really care about Logan. We want this Tyler kid because of the box. Yeah. So, again, there's some cracks within the bad guy team and who actually wants to do what.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't exactly know what Nuke's issue is, other than just maybe he didn't like being turned over to the weapons people. Is that the issue?
I think so. Logan kind of defeated him, tracked him down, made him look bad, so he owes him one. Okay.
So then we cut back to kind of where we were at the cliffhanger of the last issue. So we're somewhere in the middle of America in a cabin, and Terry and Logan had followed their leads, looking for Tyler to this cabin. And we got inside, we had seen like a Captain America shield against a wall. And then I don't remember if we must not have seen the person, but like somebody pulled a gun on Terry. That was kind of the cliffhanger.
We did see him in the last panel and saw like a little bit of the star on his chest, and he had this beard on. I don't know if Colton has always looked like that or if the beard is showing the passage of time.
Yeah, he did by the end of Captain America #5, but there was no way in hell
that was still in the past relative to now.
Yeah,
that was like
I definitely did not think like, oh, it's clearly David Colton from the Captain America run. So kind of a cool, it's easy enough, I guess, to cross over with books that you're writing, but I still I did appreciate that. Like, oh, I recognize this character, and it was kind of cool to see him because that whole like issues 1 through 5 of Captain America. I know a lot of people bailed after it, and I was kind of like, this is just what we always do with Captain America, which is like slide the scale of when he came out of the iceberg. Yeah, and then you just like pick whatever the most recent American military conflict was, and you throw some other people in there. So it's kind of, it felt like been there, done that before story, and I didn't know why they made a big point of introducing the David Colton character. But now we see him here, and he's kind of this, and he was jaded then. He was kind of had the personality of like a U.S. agent.
Mm-hmm. And we saw him when he was a little, he was, the scrawny little kid who gets the super soldier procedure. And he was super, into it and super patriotic and optimistic. And then we see that kind of face reality in the Middle East. And, again, I talk about how very Canadian that kind of first arc is and how it kind of makes him a little bit bitter about what he's seen. This issue does kind of address the question of, well, if he was a new Captain America 15 years ago, why doesn't anyone know about him?
Yeah.
Because Logan says, oh, yeah, I kind of remember hearing about you right after September 11th. Yeah. And Terry calls him the unknown Captain America. So it's like implying that he's been a shadow and he's been kind of hiding out since then, doing his own thing, but not participating in the wider superhero government kind of world.
Yeah. And in the Captain America story, I know you bailed out, maybe not even got to the end of it. Basically, it's revealed that he was deployed to some Middle East conflict and some of his team members were like attacked by a suicide bomber. And then he basically snaps and like murders to death somebody with the Captain America shield. And then, so he's like not qualified to be, the friendly patriotic face of the military to the American public. So he kind of like gets blacklisted because of that.
And is that why you think he says in this issue, I don't use the shield anymore?
Yes.
Because he has those associations with it. Okay, interesting.
Yeah, exactly. Which is kind of cool. So anyways, so he's got the gun against Terry and he's like, I'm going to kill you, get out of my cabin kind of thing. And then Wolverine is like, I don't really care if you kill her or not, which is kind of, it's an interesting dynamic. And also
a little game theory, right? He does care, but he doesn't think this Captain America kid will really do it.
Yeah.
So he's kind of playing a game there.
Yeah. So he pops the claws and then he guessed right because, David shoves Terry aside and starts blasting away at Logan. And they get into some fights. And then this is where he realizes like, he moves like a Captain America super soldier. He's really fast. And he's really worried that he's going to go for the shield because he knows you don't let Captain America get that shield. But he doesn't. He just continues to shoot the gun, even though he's kind of near the shield. And so Logan's able to disarm him and then, like, hey, knock this shit off. Like, we're trying to find this kid, Tyler. We tracked him here. And David basically says, I freed him. I'm the bomber. I freed him from that facility. I realized that he has, the adamantium abilities and a healing factor, so he doesn't really need me to take care of him. And when he left, I just was like, whatever. Like, I'm here to destroy Prime Warrior sites, not
right. I guess that's
not
what
babysit a kid.
Colton's been just doing. He sees Prime Warrior as, making super soldiers, and he thinks that's an awful bad thing. So he's just a free agent blowing their stuff up, almost like a Punisher. Captain America crossed with Punisher.
Yeah. So then they, Terry
one thing about Colton I want to ask about, he says here that his heart was ruined by the super soldier serum, so he has Stark Tech in there instead. Is that new in this issue, or has that been established?
That's new. Yeah, they haven't talked about that before.
Okay, so that would have happened sometime in the 15 years in between.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So another imperfect Captain America. And I kind of thought, like, well, what does that mean, right? That you have a mechanical heart. Does that do some cool stuff or not? But
well, it plants a seed. I'm sure that'll be a thing sometime in either this story or in the event itself, that his mechanical heart will be an important plot point.
Yeah. And I'm liking all this because I'm assuming a lot of this is they're all just seeds leading up to this big event that's coming up. And they're intriguing to me, at least a little bit. So at this moment, we get a kind of a maybe too convenient thing where Terry is like, I haven't been able to use my mutant power to track Tyler, but whatever was blocking that, I can suddenly track him. So now I know where to go.
Yeah, and then we heard from the villains that, we did this thing to block his mutantness so he can't be tracked, but it's about to wear off. And I wasn't the same exact page, but it was like 2 pages apart. Very convenient. So now they know where he is, and next issue they'll be able to go find the kid.
Yeah. So they're going to take off, but they say, hey, David, you should come with us. And he's like, I'm not down with that. Like, that's not my mission. So he's out of the book, and they go off to the next, or they're planning to head off. Now at this time, there's like a blip on some security system that I guess David had installed, and they look at the camera and they see that Nuke is here. And I guess Logan recognizes him and he's like, oh shit, everybody get down. Cause I guess Nuke just grabs a machine gun and just like lights up the cabin. So he's like blasted the cabin, and then David and Wolverine are like, we got to get outside to
Yeah, because we got two superhero types, but also Terry, who's just basically a civilian with a little tracker power. So we end on this action scene of them going out to fight Nuke. Nuke really
Nuke
still he just wants to kill Logan. He doesn't even really know that Colton is one of the guys he's supposed to kill. Yeah. He just wants to kill Logan.
Yeah. And he I don't think he sees David and Wolverine exit the building, so he thinks they're still in there, and he's got like a rocket launcher on his shoulder. He pulls that out and like takes a shot into the building, and the only person who's in the building is Terry. So I guess there's a question like, is Terry dead at this point? I'm going to guess, given the way comics work, she did not die, but
probably not, since they're going to need her to track down Tyler. Yeah. But that's the cliffhanger: is she dead, and then what's going to happen between Nuke, Logan, and Colton?
Yeah, and there's two other things I want to just quickly highlight that I don't entirely follow. So before Nuke shows up at the cabin, he like he's with Ash, and then he like just is like, I've got a sense or something, and he decides he's going to run off and ditch the Prime Warrior kind of mooks that he's with, and he runs into another bear, and he the
bear thing.
Yeah, and then he pulls out like he reaches into his pocket, pulls out the pills, and then he doesn't have a red pill. It's only the blue and the white one. And so then he like falls to his knees, and I didn't really get that. I'm like, is the bear symbolic of something?
It's making a symbolic connection between the current story and the past story, because in the past he lost to the bear. Yeah. So this time, is he going to now kill the bear? We don't even see what happens. But it's definitely,
maybe the bear is a symbol of Wolverine, because he's like, this time I'm going to kick its ass, but he still doesn't have the right equipment to do so.
It's showing us that his mindset is still very much back in that time period when Logan got the better of him. Exactly. Yeah. The rest of it I don't quite get either.
But in any event, it seems like the bear just kind of wanders off because he doesn't fight it.
We don't see. He kind of
eventually shows up at the cabin.
He falls to his knees in front of the bear. And next time we see Nuke is outside the cabin. So we don't really know what happened with the bear.
Yeah. And then there's another scene where we see Terry. He's somewhere in some city. And
Tyler, the kid.
Tyler, yes.
With the adamantium,
Tyler, the other T person. So he's like, there's like a restaurant worker taking some trash out into the back alley, and he stumbles upon Tyler, who's like rummaging through a dumpster
dive and looking for clothes because he's on the run. He needs to get some clothes. It's outside a secondhand shop, so he's like getting the clothes that were even too ratty to be in the used clothing shop.
Yeah.
There's also some graffiti that says Luca was here, which is artist Luca Maresca kind of sneaking himself into the book.
Interesting.
I caught you there, Luca.
Yeah, that's fine. So he like, and later David, I guess, kind of explains how Tyler's a little different than regular Wolverine. Apparently he's got liquid adamantium, so like T1000 adamantium. So he kind of freaks out, and he seems to be disoriented.
What do you think the adamantine thinks of all this?
I thought the exact same thing.
Because it's so adamantine, except it's not golden.
Yeah. I was like, this should be your ultimate, adamantium
double,
warrior
triple
to fight against
everything
Wolverine.
Crossing over.
Yeah. So we see he like freaks out a little bit. The liquid metal adamantium like forms out over his body and claws, and he's about to kill the poor factory worker,
almost like
the restaurant worker.
Like adamantium venom.
Yeah. But then I guess he sort of realizes like, what the hell am I doing? And then he like runs off. I don't need to fight everybody, despite how disoriented he is.
He's in a weird place. He's been tortured by this Prime Warrior company and tried to turn into this weapon, and he's got this adamantium stuff implanted, and he has his own mutant powers that I forget exactly what they were. Some sort of animal strength and something to do with animals. So I forget his exact deal, but he's clearly having a rough time. And we see him, he's just trying to escape. He's got like almost an Incredible Hulk kind of a feel to him, where he's just trying to hide in the background and not do any harm. We see he doesn't want to hurt this poor kid who surprised him by the dumpster. And he scares the crap out of the kid, but then he just runs off and says, "I'm sorry." So he's trying to be a decent person, but he's been messed with a whole lot.
Yeah. So I felt some sympathy for him. He's in a rough place. So that's the issue. I can't say this is like, there was nothing that was like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing I've ever read, but I enjoyed it. I wasn't checking the page counts, and I like the kind of continuity tie-ins with other stuff that's been going on. And in general, I followed the action.
The continuity tie-ins here feel earned and important, and like they'll mean something going forward, not like just that Agatha person is like, hey, here's somebody who showed up once. That was an issue. Moving on.
Yeah, exactly.
This
exactly.
feels like, we're actually learning something about our characters. We're making some characters deeper and more interesting.
Yep.
And Chip Zdarsky is really good at having layered, nuanced, complex characters. He did that in Daredevil. He did that back in that, I think it was the Invaders series that Jim wanted to marry. Remember that one a long time ago? Mm-hmm. So he's really good at writing these characters. And I wasn't on board for his Captain America, but I think I'm going to go back and read it now because I want to read this Weapons of Armageddon. Or I guess it's going to be Armageddon is going to be the name of the event itself. And yeah, he's got me on board. So this is my book of the week, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. So I thought it was definitely good. And if you're going to be reading that Armageddon storyline, this feels like a very important prelude. So I would go back and, jump on board this Weapons of Armageddon. I don't know if you necessarily need to read the Captain America, but it almost suggests that maybe you're going to want to see all these books crossing into each other. So maybe give that another try. And yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. So I'm going to give it an 8. And that's a very high score for not being like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing. But it feels like it's laying some groundwork that's going to make that Armageddon story even better for having read all this. And even if you don't read it, I feel like it's an interesting enough, well-told Wolverine story.
Yeah, I'm exactly the same. I'm at 8 out of 10. For some reason, I like Marvel Zdarsky a lot better than DC Zdarsky. Wasn't a huge fan of his Batman stuff, and I'm not a big fan of when he tries to do the silly, funny type comics. I know that's a big part of his output. That doesn't work for me so much, but his Marvel nuanced, layered character building storytelling, I really enjoy. So if you like that Daredevil kind of Zdarsky comic book writing, check this out. It's pretty darn good. 8 out of 10. Okay, that was Wolverine Weapons of Armageddon. Now moving on to a very different book, Inglorious X-Force number 3, Field of Booms. Ruben, any idea what that title is referencing? Field of Booms?
Not at all.
I know Boom Boom is the main kind of focused on character here, but
yeah, like
Field of Dreams, I know, but there's not any field. It's called Field of Booms. Who knows? They needed a title. That's what they came up with.
I think it's not even a clever reference to the scene later in the story where you've got all the Boom Boom clones.
Oh, growing out of flowers and things.
Yeah.
Okay, close enough. We'll take it. It is written by Tim Seeley, with art by Michael Santamaria, colors by Romulo Fajardo Jr., letters by Joe Caramagna. So as we all recall, this series, or at least this arc, don't know how long this series is going to be, it's about Cable trying to prevent the future murder of the future first mutant president of the United States, who is going to be Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel. He has reason to suspect, because it's written on his arm, that it's going to be one of the following: Wolverine, Boom Boom, or Archangel. So Cable puts exactly those people on the latest iteration of his X-Force team and invites Kamala along because, hey, why not? Issue 2 cleared, at least in Cable's mind, cleared Wolverine as a suspect. This issue focuses on Boom Boom, Tabitha Smith. So, wild guess, Ruben, when and where was Boom Boom's first appearance in Marvel Comics?
Was it sometime in the X-Force storyline?
It was not an X-Force.
No? Okay.
Give me a decade.
Oh, man. I want to say like 85, but you're going to tell me it's like 70 or 60, aren't you?
1985. We did not set it up. Shut up. Okay. Not you, Ruben. Ta-da. So, yeah, 1985. Because she seems like a very 90s character to me. I would have guessed, Chris Claremont, 90s, X-Men, somewhere in there.
I just remember she was like around the New Mutants.
Okay.
Leading into like the X-Force stuff. But I kind of had guessed that she was in X-Force. Was it New Mutants where she first showed up?
It was, of all freaking places, Ruben, Secret Wars 2, number 5.
Oh, wow.
She's this bratty teen mutant who's run away from they hint that her family's kind of abusive, but also that she also kind of tried to blow them up. Probably her dad's fault, but you try to blow your dad up, something's wrong. Mm-hmm. So she's run away from the family. She wants to go to the Xavier School because she's heard, that's where you go when you're a teen mutant. She ends up running into the Beyonder, hanging around with the Beyonder for a while. I'm not going to explain the Beyonder. We don't have time for that deep a deep dive. But if you've ever seen Q in Star Trek Next Generation,
that's the Beyonder.
Basically the Beyonder. Stork, You can yell at me about that, tell me I'm wrong, but more or less, one sentence, Beyonder equals Q. There's even a whole, a species of Beyonders out there doing things just like the Q continuum. I think it's pretty close. So in that story, Tabitha betrays her new Beyonder friend. This makes the Beyonders sad. And that's why he allows the X-Men to defeat him for a second time, because this is Secret Wars 2. Much later, in 2006, Tabitha became part of, Ruben, what did she become part of in 2006?
X-Force.
Next Wave. We got to talk about Next Wave again. Yes.
Oh, God. Okay.
We talked about Next Wave is just popping up all over because Maxine Danger showed up in Adjectiveless X-Men because the Beyond Corporation was part of Next Wave. And oh, by the way.
Oh, was it really?
Yeah. That's where
fascinating.
That's where they came from, was Next Wave.
Okay.
And
I felt like this was a Spider-Man villain, so is this actually started out as an X-Men problem?
Well, Next Wave is its own thing. It's not really X-Men.
Okay.
So Beyond Corporation, that first word, Beyond, they were founded by Beyonders. So
oh my gosh.
Beyond stuff all tied together here. Next Wave was a 12-issue limited series written by Warren Ellis before he got himself canceled. It was cynical, satirical, had characters acting wildly out of character, intentionally, explicitly not in continuity. It was its own separate, parody thing on the side.
I can't imagine Warren Ellis doing parody. Because as soon as you said Warren Ellis, I was like, oh, well, you're going to tell me that this actually was a pretty decent series, but I don't think of him as well. I guess Transmetropolitan was somewhat.
Transmetropolitan, I believe.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that was a bit satirical, but man, I don't think of him as a comedy writer.
Had the satire turned much more obvious, much more way up, much more over the top on purpose. That's what it was trying to do. Mm-hmm. And other writers especially loved Next Wave. So other writers in Marvel started referencing events from Next Wave as if they had been in continuity, which made things a whole mess. So Marvel turned to Al Ewing to fix it because he's their continuity kid doctor, right? Al Ewing loves the continuity.
Yep.
So in a book called Captain America and the Mighty Avengers, which I haven't read, but I've read about it, apparently in this book, Ewing establishes that the Next Wave series took place in a different universe, Earth 63163, write that down, people, and the main characters of that had been kidnapped from the 616, had their memories and personalities messed with by Beyond. They had those adventures there in Next Wave, and then sometime after Next Wave, they were sent back to the regular 616. So now when their personalities start leaning into their Next Wave versions, that's why.
Okay.
So that's where we are now. And every time, anyone who writes for these characters, some writers lean more to the classic versions of all these people. Boom Boom. I think Machine Man was in there. Elsa Bloodstone. Photon. I forget what her other name is. The Ms. Marvel character, Photon. So all these characters, some writers write them more like Next Wave. Some of them write them more like classic. And because of what Al Ewing put together, you can claim any of that is correct. So that's where we are. Not a great solution, but it's what we have. Tim Seeley clearly loves this stuff because he incorporates all of it into this one issue. So we start off with the death of Boom Boom. At least it looks like that. I have to say, too. Yeah, please.
I knew nothing about Next Wave, and I was really lost. And as I read all this, I was like, just taking it at face value. And I felt like I probably would have liked this issue a lot more if I understood any of the things that you just told me.
This book was a lot of work to understand. And maybe people have more like everyday Next Wave stuff in their head, and they love that kind of thing. And also they loved some Angel backstory we're going to get into. You need to know a lot of backstory to really appreciate this. And if you did, maybe you love this issue. For me, it was a slog because I spent 5 times longer in the wikis than I did reading the damn book.
Yeah, it was a big step down from the first 2 issues for me, just because I didn't do any of the research and I just took it at face value and I was like, this is weird. Like,
well, that's why I'm here, Ruben, to fill in all these things. So if people are wondering what the hell this is all about, now you kind of know. So Boom Boom dies on like the first page, at least it looks like it. We see her go to her job at a construction site. Then she goes on a date with her boss. Not a great idea. Then she walks into the ocean and she blows herself up.
Yeah, and I was pretty confused because we had seen her.
It's supposed to be confusing.
Yeah, we had seen her at that construction site and we had seen her kind of just quit as soon as she joined X-Force. So I was like, how is she working again? Like when it says yesterday, I'm like, I thought you quit. Like I had assumed this was maybe a few weeks after she quit. But I guess the implication is as soon as she did quit, we find out these are the clones, right?
Right.
At least one of them.
This is not the Tabitha we know on the team. It's some clone, and we'll find out about the clones throughout the book.
Yeah. And so this is one of the things that confused me is, so she walked off this job site, or maybe this is a different one. I just assumed it was the same one.
I assume so too. I did not go back and check to see if it's the same boss.
Yeah.
Did we even get a name? I don't know.
Yeah, she was kind of flirting with that person anyways in the original.
Well, she flirts with everybody.
Storyline.
That's kind of her thing.
Yeah. And so I was just like, how do you just quit a job and then just get the job right back? But so maybe what happened is she left and then the clone just showed up the next day for work as if nothing had happened.
Maybe that's a definite possibility. Or it's a totally different construction job.
Yeah.
It doesn't really matter either way because the clone just blows up. Next scene, we have Archangel taking a business meeting with Maxine freaking Danger.
Yeah.
So, Ruben, what do you think is more likely? Is it a clever, intentional bit of synergy with adjectiveless X-Men where Maxine Danger is one of the villains there in the Danger Room?
Yeah.
Or, Ruben, is it B, no one at Marvel was paying attention, two writers happened to use the same character, and Tom Brevoort just went, whatever.
I won't say it was synergy.
Really?
I'm
way more cynical than you. I think this is just random happenstance, and they went, no one's going to notice.
Yeah. When I read it, I was just like, is this character suddenly like a big ass X-Men villain? Which I was not expecting. The adjectiveless appearance, I've been saying, like, why are we getting off the interesting story with 3K to deal with Maxine Danger? But when I saw her in this, I was like, okay, it's because she's now suddenly, the number one villain for the X-Men.
She's not in one of those video games now, is she? Because that seems to be whenever we get a character suddenly get a push in the comics, it's because they showed up in the video games.
Yeah, no.
Maxine Rivals and Maxine Danger and Rivals, not a thing.
Well, the creators of that series said that they're not going to introduce original characters because there's like a bajillion Marvel characters that they can add to the game. So I wouldn't put it past them, but they still have a lot of like A-list characters to add before they get to Maxine Danger. Yeah.
So Archangel is having this meeting with her, but it's really just an excuse for Angel to steal some data from beyond. They have to distract her for him to do this, and the best way that X-Force can think of to distract Maxine is to blow up a piece of her building. So that's what Tabitha does. But don't worry, Ms. Marvel's down below using her hard light mutant powers to prevent any passersby from being murdered to death by falling debris. But I still think that blowing up parts of a skyscraper in what looks like New York, it is Manhattan. It even says Manhattan. That gives me a bad feeling, and not a great choice there by X-Force. But they distract her. He steals the data, and they leave. We're out. Before we go, though, one more odd continuity pull from Tim Seeley. He loves his continuity pulls. Maxine Danger summons a superhero type who's working for her to kind of say, hey, who's blowing up my shit? We only get like 2 panels with this character, and it's a female Spider-Man type person called Webhead. Are you a big Webhead fan there, Ruben?
Not at all.
Webhead is Linda Locke. Her only previous appearances were in an Amazing Spider-Man Infinity comic that I have not read, and that was in 2024 to 2025. And that was one of those Infinity comics that got canceled suddenly. So the storyline she was in, and she was working for the Beyond Corporation in that story. Her story just kind of ended. So this is her first actual, physical comic book appearance, Webhead Linda Locke. And I don't think we even know where her powers come from, or if it's just a technology in the suit that does her spider thing, because clearly we need more spider characters. We don't have enough.
Yeah.
I don't know if she's going to be important.
Is Webhead going to fight the Scott and his team? Or we're just never going to mention that. That's she got Danger Room on her right hand and Webhead on her left hand.
I'll be really impressed if this crossover is shown to be intentional. I don't think it is. Yeah. If they make it work, I'll give them full credit. And I don't even know if Webhead's going to be important in this story, because in this exact issue, she's in 2 panels in a row and then she's gone. So who knows? So the stolen data points Cable to an area in northern Minnesota. It's curling country, Ruben. But instead of curling, what's going on here is a group doing some cloning crap to give mutant powers to non-mutants. A lot of places all over Marvel Comics, it's the hip thing in Marvel Comics these days, is giving mutant powers to non-mutants, creating new mutants. Every book's doing it. This group is called...
some U-Men, that was their thing, but for them it was a lot harder to get the mutant powers. I guess they just needed to call Beyond.
How about a high evolutionary? Get him in here.
Yeah.
But this group is called HATE, which stands for Highest Anti-Terrorism Effort. HATE was also part of Next Wave. In Next Wave, the big reveal at the end is that we had this good guy organization, we had this bad guy organization, they were fighting each other. But Ruben, it turned out they were both parts of the same corporation that was making weapons. Because cynical 1990s.
Yeah.
That's what it was.
Mm-hmm.
So the next part gets really odd. X-Force fights a group of humorous, you can hear the quotation marks there, these humorous, cloned, created, mutant-type bad guys. You can barely even call them characters. Like we have Pit, the Living Outhouse, the Man Flounder, Penultimate Fancy Dan.
Yeah.
And that was the only funny one. I laughed at Penultimate Fancy Dan, because Fancy Dan himself is kind of a dumb villain. Ultimate Fancy Dan would be silly. Penultimate Fancy Dan, oh, okay, that's fun. But X-Force defeats these losers in literally half a page. We never see them again.
Yeah.
That's again beyond,
Jed
it's
McKay
beyond
team.
silliness. Yeah. That would be funny if he's actually making fun of Jed McKay villain teams here.
Yes.
I don't think that's it, but I like that interpretation.
I like Mechabara just because he's a hippo with like mechanical parts. That made me laugh.
I think he's a capybara
Oh, you think
with
so?
mechanical parts. Yeah,
Okay.
that's what he is. Mechabara. But yeah, if you like these characters, you have exactly one panel to enjoy them, because then we get a panel that's only full of sound effects, and they're all dead.
Yeah. Pit the Living Outhouse has got to stink. That also made me laugh. It's a pretty bad villain.
Fancy Dan, yeah. So there's a fake town called New Axe Handle that only celebrates Thanksgiving, which is Boom Boom's favorite holiday. I don't know why that's in there. Now we've run into the guy running the situation, who is Dirk Anger, also from Next Wave. And the story is that Warren Ellis wanted to use Nick Fury in Next Wave. Editorial told him no, so he creates Dirk Anger. No Fury, I'm using Anger. Again, no subtlety to Next Wave. The subtlety dial was turned to zero.
It's so obvious. And
it even has like a lens over
one
eye.
Yeah.
It's not a patch, it's a lens. But Nick Fury knockoff.
Okay.
Dirk Anger died in Next Wave number 11. Here we're told he's brought back through cloning. He had mommy issues all throughout Next Wave, so here we're told he brings back his mom too. Even that dress she's wearing was a dress that he was hanging on to in Next Wave.
Mm-hmm.
And we're told that this resurrected mom, who keeps swearing and saying mean things about him, she also has all the mutant powers, just loaded her up with all the powers. Is this getting silly enough for you yet?
Yeah, the tone I didn't like. It was
totally different tone than issues 1 and 2.
Yeah.
Way sillier. So let's kind of cut to the chase. We have tons of clones here, thousands, all with powers, most of them based on Boom Boom. So that's why we have all these Boom Booms flying around. For some reason, she's really easy to clone and really easy to attach different mutant powers to.
Mm-hmm.
The only person on the team who can defeat all of these thousands of clones, the Tabithas, the mom, Dirk himself, everybody, is Archangel. Warren taps into the death seed inside of him, uses the death seeds to turn all of these clones into flowers, because in Next Wave world, they call them broccolis. Their clones were all based on plants.
Did you know the death seed stuff too? I've heard that term,
but okay.
I was like, what the hell is the death seed?
I'm not going to click the deep dive button because my technology is not working, but again, you got to know all this continuity to get this.
You do, because I was just like, okay, he's tapping the death seed. I don't know what that means.
Is a piece of celestial technology, friggin' celestials, that Apocalypse used when he made Warren into the Death Horseman.
Mm-hmm.
He gave him this death seed and implanted it inside of him. Kind of changes his personality. It's almost like a Dark Child thing for magic. It's like inside of him, but he doesn't like to let it out.
Okay.
I had thought that the death seed had been removed from him. There was a bit where some other people create a life seed and the life seed cancels out the death seed. But I guess, the real death seed was inside of him all along. I don't know what the powers can do. I don't know if he can always use it. I don't know if it's only useful against clones who are made of plants.
Yeah, the only thing it does is turn you into a
but it Deus
person.
Ex Machinas this entire plot, and now it's over. All the clones are dead.
Yeah, okay.
So at the end of this fight, we learn that none of the cloned Tabithas would obey the orders to go out and kill people, which is what Dirk Anger wanted to do to kind of seize control of the Beyond Corporation through a plot that didn't make any sense.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't obey. They didn't want to kill anybody. That's why we saw that Tabitha at the beginning go into the ocean, blow herself up, instead of blowing up a bunch of innocent people. Yeah. And according to Cable, this fact that all the Tabithas didn't want to kill anybody, that means the real Tabitha gets crossed off the suspect list.
Yeah.
I don't know if I quite follow your logic there, Mr. Cable, but that's how this book works.
I know, yeah. I was like, that doesn't tell you anything.
Yeah, he was not channeling the world's greatest detective like Jitter did in Uncanny.
Yeah.
But this means that on his list had only 3 people on it. He already crossed off Wolverine. This issue he crosses off Tabitha. The only one left is Archangel.
Yeah.
I'm still hanging on to my theory that the list is going to turn out to be a shenanigan. It's nobody on the list. It's either going to be somebody completely out of the blue, or it's going to be Cable did it himself. That's kind of like my main theory. Oh, Cable, it says one of us. Hey, Cable is one of us. I'm one of us. So it was me. I think that's what it is, because his memories are messed up. So it's going to turn out to be something else was going on. He had to make it look like I don't know. Or maybe the Ms. Marvel who was president isn't the real Miss Marvel. There's going to be a shenanigan. That's what I think. Before we end this issue, we do have a brief epilogue. We see back at X-Force home base, Boom Boom has been knocking boots with Wolverine. They've been flirting since issue 1, not a big surprise. She does like the bad boys. Boom Boom leaves Akihiro's room, sees a squirrel inside the X-Force headquarters, which is strange. As readers, we know what this means, because we've seen Domino, who's been observing things secretly from afar. She's been hanging out with a squirrel. Squirrel means Domino. Boom Boom, Tabitha goes into Cable's office, sees Cable, her kind of a father figure replacing her abusive father. Her father figure slumped down in his chair with what looks like a bullet wound in his chest. Standing next to him with a big old gun is Domino. Domino says, oh, no, it's not what it looks like. But Boom Boom is an explode now, ask questions later kind of a gal. Issue ends with a boom sound effect. That'll be where we start up next issue.
Yeah.
That was a hell of an issue, Ruben, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So how are you going to start scoring this thing? If you're the reader who is a big fan of Next Wave, fully conversive with Angel's weird old backstory, you might love this issue a lot more than I did. For me, it was a lot of work to get through, and all it was to say, okay, Tabitha's, you are not the killer. A whole lot of work to get there. Wasn't worth it for me.
It even ends with a scene with Warren calling up Maxine Danger for a date. So they're going to go on a date, I guess? Because why?
Yeah, well, it was implied that they kind of know they're playing a business person game, where maybe we'll have another meeting. She knows that I'm trying to steal from her. She's trying to steal with me. It's a very, we're business people doing business things kind of thing. Yeah. Again, maybe if this turns out to have actual continuity with the Jed McKay book, I'll be impressed. I'm not expecting it. And I'm just beyond type silliness just does not work for me. It's the talking sandwiches all over again. We have, look at these silly schmilly characters, and now they're dead. That doesn't do it for me as a comic book reader. So I'm going to give this very Next Wave centric issue of Inglorious X-Force 5.5 out of 10. I see what Tim Seeley's doing. He's doing it okay for what he's trying to do. I'm just not interested in it. I want to get back to the main story of Inglorious X-Force. I want to see what's up with Ms. Marvel. There was not nearly enough Kamala Khan in this issue. Right?
Yeah.
Our favorite thing was her interaction. Her interaction being this super naive, super genky, optimistic, annoyingly optimistic kid in the middle of cynical X-Force. That was what was driving this book for me. We get almost none of that issue. So, yeah, I was disappointed. 5.5. Too much wiki diving, not enough Kamala Khan. I really hope Tim Seeley returns to form. Next issue, maybe the Archangel issue will be more my style. How about you?
Yeah.
You got a number for me?
Yeah, I'm just going to give it a 5. Not a FU5, but a disappointed 5. Mm-hmm. Because I like the first 2 issues. And
not angry, just disappointed.
Just disappointed, yeah. I'm guessing this is like aping a tone of that Next Wave story, so it's probably effective at that. But what I liked about the first 2 issues was that it was very grounded. Like, I could follow what was going on, and the selling points were like the character dynamics.
Or a Cable story with time travel as it's set up, but I get what you're saying.
Correct, yeah. And this one just ditches it all. Like, there's not a lot of great character moments. Instead, it's just like zaniness.
Zany is a good word for it, yeah.
Yeah, it's not what I wanted from the tone of the last 2 stories. So my hope is this was just Tim Seeley really wanted to tell a Next Wave story, and he's checked that off the list, and he's back to what we had in the last 2 issues. Because if this tone continues, like if this is like, I wasn't liking where I was writing this story, and this is, I've hit the magic formula, I'm going to do this, going forward, then I'm going to quickly lose interest in this series.
Well, Inglorious X-Force is making it at least issue 6. That has been solicited for, let's see, when is that coming out? In June, issue 6 is coming out, which apparently goes back to the new the new MILFs and Kali, the leader of that group we saw hinted at in the first issues. So it's not a 5-issue mini. I don't know how long it's going to be, but it's at least getting a second arc.
Yeah.
So pretty cool there. I didn't like this issue. I like the series. I hope it gets a good long run and get some cool stuff happening. Okay, I think we've kicked this one around enough, don't you think?
Sure.
Let's move on to our final full-on review, which is, it's not an X book, but it is the New Avengers number 10 of 10, written by Sam Humphries, art by Ton Lima, colors by Rain Barreto, letters by Joe Sabino. So, Ruben, tell us all about this finale of the New Avengers.
Yeah, this is putting all the toy box or all the toys back in the toy box from Sam Humphries, but and I think there's kind of a few hints where I'm just like, it seems like he kind of wanted to take the story a little bit longer than he got on this run, but in general, I was kind of satisfied. I mean, this isn't like a story for the ages story, but I always find final issues difficult to give you anything out of it, and I don't know. Well, I'm curious to hear what you think about this. You might be just like, people die too quickly, and it's just all done, and done. But to me, the pacing was fine.
The ongoing comic universes, you're limited in what you can do in these final issues, right? Because when we read that, what could have been the final issue of the Power Fantasy, Jim's ass, anything really could have happened. Anyone could have died. The universe could have been altered beyond recognition. But in the Marvel universe, it's all got to kind of go back where you started. Even if it's in your big event where we're going to change the universe, it's going to change, but it's not really going to change. So in a side book like the New Avengers, you're not really going to have anything huge happen. What I thought was, I read this issue, Ruben, about 1 a.m. last night.
Yeah.
I was up late. I had forgotten this book existed for this week. And what I really need to do is go back and read issues 1 through 9 again to see if the explanation we get in this issue really makes sense. Because we get a lot of, here's what was really happening with Natasha especially. Mm-hmm. And I'm reading this, I'm going, does that make sense? I don't remember. So maybe you remember better and you can explain to us if this was a brilliant, well-made, Swiss watch of a story, or if it was hand-waving nonsense.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of don't want to read it, to go back and reread it, just because
You're afraid it'll be nonsense?
I'm afraid it's not going to work, but I was like, that's kind of cool. The explanation we get is like, there was a story behind the story, and like...
Which we knew, because he was clearly hiding something. Sam Humphries was hiding something, but he was showing us that he was hiding something, right? And it's like, here's a thing. There's a thing we're going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you yet. And that was with the whole jumping around in time before Osaka, after Osaka. Osaka is still blowed up or badly damaged here, so that isn't undone. I was expecting that to be completely undone, but I guess going forward, there's a lot of construction work to be done in Osaka, so get some boom boom clones out there.
I want to he was right sound effect with the Shadow Boss reveal, because I remember I posted in Slack the image of some of the box or whatever they found, and I was like trying to drive up speculation. Nobody wanted to engage in the talk with me, but I was like, I feel like this has got to be a Baron Zemo reveal, and it turned out to be Baron Zemo. So
ta-da!
Yeah, there we go. That's why I was like, this all works. Everything. I don't want to look at the other stuff. I'm just going to trust that it all lined up. So
I just searched the Slack, and I see that on February 18th. That was over like a month and a half ago. Yeah. Any guesses whose hand this is in New Avengers? I think it's Baron Zemo.
Yes.
Oh, and there's some of the code. It had a B's, B26L.
Yeah.
And you connected that B and the Z for the 26th letter of the alphabet. Okay, yeah. And that hand does turn out to be important to this issue. So, yeah. Ta-da!
Ta-da!
Okay, tell us the actual story of this issue.
Yeah, I appreciate that he kind of gave the answer and you could figure it out, and then I figured it out, so that was cool. So we started the issue kind of cutting back to the sexy interrogation scene where Bucky has Natasha all tied up and had given her the truth serum to find out what was going on. And I don't think in the original telling of this story, like, the other woman personality had come out and he was conversing with it, but now we see that.
Right. This is the first time we see that.
Yeah, that the other woman comes forward and they have a conversation, and he learns that she's just a temporary personality with like a mission and you can't get rid of it. But once the mission is completed, there's no more need for the code. So it'll just like self-wipe which is kind of convenient, but that gets you. That's how you get Natasha back to being Black Widow without.
Do we know how this personality was implanted in her? I could not remember how that happened.
Yeah, I think it's just hand wavy Baron Zemo scheme kind of stuff.
Okay, that's what I want to go back and see, because that feels important to the story. Like, how did they get this personality in her? Because that's the whole driving force of everything that's going on.
Yeah. So apparently from this scene, they hatch a plot, where they realize we have to let the other woman succeed in order to get rid of the other woman.
Ah, okay.
But we know what the other woman is going to accomplish, so we'll fake that we're like being duped, but then have a plan to defeat it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that plan is to bring back Baron Zemo, who died in the One World Under Doom event.
Yeah.
And he wants to be, he's trying to bring himself back, and he has this whole kind of AI he left behind, failsafe, to reclone him. And that's what all this has secretly been about, is getting Baron Zemo back alive again.
Yeah, exactly. So then we cut to, they say 2 days ago in the story, which kind of threw me off a little bit, but this timestamp is like from the ending, because it's really what we know is like the current continuity, which is
right. It seems like this whole story in retrospect has been telling what happened to Tony Stark and Captain Marvel. Yeah. So I think all these timestamps are relative to when they're telling the story.
Yeah, yeah. So you've got the new Avengers fighting the Illuminati in this cloning lab, and you've got like a countdown going on where, whatever, they've gotten all the materials they needed to clone something, and the clone timer is ticking away.
And the hand was a big part of that, so that's why the Baron Zemo hand was important.
Yep.
And the Jackal's down there at the bottom, and it's like a Windows progress bar, right? We're at 96% progress, 97% progress. And that's why they can't just blow up the cloning tank, because then the other woman won't go away.
Correct. Yeah. That's the reason for that, is they have to actually let it complete, or presumably the other woman just continues to try to bring back Baron Zemo.
Right.
So in the background, you've got like the Shadow Boss, which was like the mysterious AI that was kind of manipulating the Illuminati into doing its bidding. It finally comes out of the shadows, and it's Baron Zemo's face as an AI, and it's talking trash, telling them to fight. And then the majority of this issue is just a big fight scene between the two teams, and then you see the new Avengers like one by one killing off everybody. So Carnage kills Rapunzel, then Clea kills Guru Strange. Then suddenly
she really enjoys that. She gets a nice thrill over that.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of blowing through this, but the fight's pretty good, and the dialogue's fun.
Yeah, all the fights in this book, they've been a little meaner than your average Marvel book. Yeah. Right? Sam Humphries, it's a little gritty, it's a little mean, it's a little dirty. It's not anything, Captain America would do. He would not be a good member of this team. Everything's a little bit more, we know the real way, the way the real world works. We can't play by these high ideals. We're Bucky, we're a spy. We're Natasha, we're a spy. This is the way things get done in the real world. And it's fitting to what the story's been told.
Yeah. And all along we had the side story of Carnage getting, or Eddie Brock getting kind of the Carnage symbiote, like telling him to like murder his own team. And now he's like letting it murder the Illuminati. Mm-hmm. I assumed if this series had gone longer, there would have been kind of more to that story than what we ended up getting. It did
feel like we were being set up to have Carnage attack a team member.
Yeah.
I did like when we saw Namor kill Lord Britain by just punching his head clean
that was
just punching his head off.
Yeah,
somebody you see super powered, super strength people punch others all the time in comics.
Yeah.
You'd think more heads would just fly off. You don't see that. In this book, you see a head get punched off.
Yep. Yeah. So they're brutal. They're using their powers full out.
Good word for it. Yeah.
And then at some point, Natasha shows up, but she's under the possession of the other woman persona, and so she starts getting into a fight with Bucky, and she's like, "You're not going to kill me because you love Natasha, but I don't give a damn for you. Like, so prepare to die, Bucky Barnes." And Laura Kinney's fighting with Luke Charles, and then because Carnage has already killed Rapunzel, like he jumps Luke Charles and like freezes him, and then Luke Charles does some trash talk, which is like, "Oh, you'll never be able to live down that you weren't able to defeat me in one-on-one combat." She's like, "I don't give a damn," and she kills him.
He's like, "A fair fight? I don't care about a fair fight. This is the new Avengers. We don't do fair fights. You're thinking of a different book."
Yes, exactly.
Cuts him right in half.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. And so the countdown timer on the cloner is like at 99%. And at this point, pretty much the entire Illuminati is dead. And so Iron
There's
Apex.
two left. We got the Iron Apex, the Tony Stark guy, and we have is it
and
Dr.
Ouroboros.
Ouroboros or Mr. Ouroboros?
Yeah, Mr. Ouroboros.
The Reed Richards guy.
Yeah. And they have like the bromance love thing going, and they're basically like, we can see the tides turning, and they know they're going to get murdered to death by the new Avengers.
I forget what made them think that at some point they could win their freedom. Were they told you have to do X, Y, and Z?
It was
I don't
Shadow
remember
Boss.
what that was.
Yeah, the
Shadow
Boss was like, if you bring back the person, then we'll let you free to have your freedom.
Mm-hmm. But here they realized, that's never going to happen, so they decide to go out in Blaze of Glory.
Yep. So they go for Blaze of Glory. Like they decide they're going to like try to blast the Zemo cloning chamber and stop the clone from being formed. And Shadow Boss does not like that, so he activates the genetic kill switch. And it's pretty damn brutal. Like their skin boils and they turn into
really gross
goo. Yeah. And then Baron Zemo exits from his containment unit. And the only thing I don't like about this is I think Baron Zemo is a cool character, but Baron Zemo 1-on-1 against, I guess he's like 2-on-1, him and Black Widow versus the entire new Avengers. I was like, I don't think you're that formidable,
it is his facility. He's got the AI. We don't know what else he can do technology-wise.
Yeah.
And here I was thinking, well, maybe they really are bringing back Baron Zemo.
Yeah.
Right? Because he was just killed off in One World Under Doom. Maybe they want him back in the universe. It could go either way at this point. Is it going to work or is it not going to work? So I think that was a cool idea from Sam Humphries, that this is something that we really didn't know. We say, it's got to reset to the status quo. Which status quo are we going to? It could have gone either way.
Yeah, exactly. And they do a good enough job explaining how he's just a damn Nazi, and that's a real big problem, right? You don't want a Nazi running around. So because he was successfully cloned, the other woman personality and Black Widow kind of just goes away. And so she's back in her facilities. And so, she does not kill Bucky. Surprise, surprise. And then suddenly we find out there was a secret plan behind the plan. And so Baron Zemo starts to melt. And we learned that earlier, Natasha, Black Widow, using all of her cool spy skills, had infiltrated the Illuminati base and contaminated the cloning vat.
This is the part I want to go back and see if it makes sense. Because, at this point, I pretended to be this, and she was wearing a jackal mask and had knocked out the jackal. And does the jackal remember this? And kind of messed up the whole... So at that point, really the Baron Zemo cloning scheme was over. Nobody knew it at the time, but it was already corrupted. It was not going to work out well.
Yeah. Yep.
But I guess if they had just blown it up at that point, then the other woman personality would have persisted and tried again. So they had to go through and have her see that it worked, and then she's gone, and then we can show that, no, it actually didn't work.
Yeah, exactly.
But I don't know if all these things that were shown that Natasha did, if we can really fit them into the timeline and say, Sam Humphries really made it work.
Yeah, and it's also a little hand-wavy to say, I guess I don't know. I would want to go back and look and see, like, does the other woman know what Natasha is doing? Like, was there a point where, they said... it's a background personality, but it has your knowledge.
Can you access the same memory banks situation?
Yeah. But I'm not gonna look. I'm just gonna trust that it works. So everything's defeated. Oh, and she also hacked the computer and corrupted the Shadow Boss AI. So that's also defeated and dead. So everything's dead. And you're asking me in Slack, does that mean that most of Osaka is like a nuclear crater, and they don't reset that? So
I guess so.
I don't think anybody's ever gonna, like, the next time we see Osaka, there'll be just a big giant moon crater, and
that would be fun, though. That would be a nice bit of continuity if we just, in the background, we see a big circular area with a lot of construction going on, or all the buildings in this circle are somehow 20 years newer than anything else. Don't know why. But so then we get the epilogue.
Yeah, it gets the epilogue. It's like the present, and you have Captain Marvel and Iron Man still wearing their recent McKay run Avengers outfits, pre disbanding of the Avengers, and so they're there talking to this team and saying, like, what the hell did you do? Like, and you're doing it claiming to be Avengers.
Yeah, why didn't you call us in at the very beginning? You should have told us.
Yeah,
and it's kind of explained that actually they kind of wanted in on the neurogenic cloning situation.
Yep.
And I guess that's why the new Avengers didn't call the Avengers in, because they were doing like Illuminati behind the scenes nefarious shit themselves. And the new Avengers didn't want this cloning technology used by the good guys. They just wanted to destroy it.
Yes.
So that was that conflict.
Yeah. And then they throw some shades basically saying like, you can't take away our position as Avengers. We are Avengers, and we were dubbed Avengers by Bruce Banner himself.
In issue 1 or 2 way back then,
Yeah. And then, I guess Iron Man and Captain Marvel have something further to say, but they kind of interrupt him and are like, it doesn't fucking matter because we don't like each other anyways, and we're disbanding ourselves.
Which is pretty funny. We're you can't disband us. I disband us. And it's not because we did anything wrong. It's because we all hate each other's freaking guts. That's why we're not a team anymore. Yeah. And that goes back to the beginning. The whole initial thing was, I hate being on a team. Teams never work out. And that comes full circle. No more teams. Teams never work out. It's just left with Bucky and Natasha, sitting in a tree. Something, ing.
Yeah. So the last page, another Natasha Bucky shag fest in the bed, and just like we're turning off our cell phones.
2 semi-nude scenes in this issue. You got to have at least 1 semi-nude scene per issue. Sam Humphrey doubles up this time with 2 of them.
Yeah. So it all wraps up. The pacing felt okay, and overall, I was surprised by how much I enjoyed these 10 issues. I don't know if this team or series had a 30-issue run in them if people were buying it enough. I kind of feel like this story was enough.
It feels pretty self-contained, right? Yeah. Everything that was set up gets explained. There's no dangling threads. It doesn't feel all that rushed. It feels like this is probably what Sam Humphries was intending from the beginning. Yep. I'm sure if Marvel came to him with a pile of money and said, hey, you want to write some more? Yep. I expect he'd say yes, but we get the 10 issues. And if you're not really into the current Avengers run, if you want to read a nice self-contained story that's a little bit grittier, a little bit dirtier, a little bit more cynical, still with some fun fights and some cool characters, you could do a whole lot worse than reading this 10-issue series. It's pretty good.
Yeah, I had fun. And I don't think the Killuminati really needed to be around permanently, so I didn't give a damn if they got killed off. And I had some fun, with the character design. So
Iron Apex, the tech bro voice for him, was one of the highlights of this book, was just that voice for like Tony Stark is already kind of an asshole, but to turn up that level to make him a modern tech bro jerk, really good stuff.
Yeah. So I overall I liked it, and the way it ended, it didn't feel like a huge drop off. So I'm going to give it I still think that the Weapons of Armageddon was a better story, and I'm more excited about it, but I'm going to give this a 7-8. It was just to, be slightly under that. But overall, it was satisfying, and it's like an entire 10-issue miniseries, probably an 8. It's one of the surprise stories that I've had. Like, I really didn't think that this was great. And so I want to say thanks to Gray for covering that first issue, because there's no way in hell I would have picked this up.
That's who pointed us out. I forgot it was a Gray tip. So yeah, thanks Gray for that. It was good book. I'm glad I read it. And my numbers, this is boring, but I've already written down exactly those same numbers you just said. I'm at 7-8 for this issue. It might be higher if I go back and reread and see all the connections that Sam Humphrey made it all work. It could be higher than that. Right now, my head is just, again, I read it at like 1 to 1:30 in the morning, and I'm going, does that make sense? Maybe. If it all clicks, it could be better than that. And yeah, overall, this story's worth an 8. Pretty darn good book. Well, that was the last of the main issues we want to talk about. We said there was some other stuff that happened this week. Ruben, did you want to spend a minute or two talking about the other X books that you read?
Yeah, really quick, and I'd love to hear your thoughts of like Rogue, because I probably won't read that one. But quickly, the Generation X-23 had their second issue, and I picked that up. And in the last issue, we had Laura and Gabby following like smells of kitten, which sounds so weird.
Yeah, Kaiden is X-23 Laura's friend from her first appearances, and so they're tracking these other mutants who are kind of similar and smell like her.
Yeah,
they wind up back at this warehouse where they meet all these other mutant type characters who all have X number names.
Yeah, and so basically we learned that there was another weapons program. Yay!
So it's every book is doing the same things. We have either you're beyond or you're Weapon X or you're making mutants out of something. They're all telling kind of the same stories.
I kind of wish the X
If only
office
there was
would
an editor conducting all of this to keep people from telling the same story.
Like, you got a great story, but like we got another one that's doing the exact same thing, so let's not do that. So they were confronted at the end of the last issue by the new team of these characters are not they're not going to show up in 10 years. Like, do you remember Generation X-23?
This is not the new Kitty Pryde. No.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't even know. And he gave them numbers.
Worst. Why
it's
would
the
you,
worst.
I get that they're all supposed to be referenced to X-23. That's the whole point. Yeah. But they're not all that interesting characters. There's one kid who keeps peeling her face off, kind of like Skin. She's all right. But they all have X and a number. One of them's X Infinity. I don't even remember what the numbers they were. X1, X2, X69.
No, there's no way you
X69 dude, X67, 67. I don't know.
It's supposed to be a joke, but it's not that funny. And they just have a conversation where basically they say, well, there were more of us, and one of us flipped out and killed the researchers. And so then Laura and Gabby are like, well, why didn't you leave? And they're like, well, I have this ability. One of us has this ability to impersonate people. So we've just been calling back to the home office and saying everything's going great.
Send us more Lunchables.
More food. Yeah, exactly.
Which that's kind of funny. I don't know if I totally buy that everyone here is actually dead. But, I can put my face on a camera and say, send us more food. We're still doing science.
Yeah. Yeah. So there's that. And then they're really like starstruck by Laura. So they want to show her like how they've been training and they can take care of themselves. So they have like contests, like a danger room type thing where it's like, hey, let's go grab this ring that's at the top of the ceiling, and stuff happens. And the only thing that really, like during this training session, one of the kids or one of the X people has like a nuclear meltdown and a clone turning into whatever dead person.
Very much like in the Alex Pactadell Sentinels book, where the people with the Sentinel technology, if they kind of go too far, they just kind of melt down, blow up. Yeah. Very much like that.
Yeah, and it happens right next to Laura Kinney, and so she gets injured, and so then it cuts to like another scene where she's in a medical bay and Gabby's looking over her and she's recovering, and they're like, oh, she hasn't been burned this badly.
And this is what a medical bay looks like. It does not look like Magneto's like desk. So somebody take a lesson from this. Neco Diaz, love your work, but this is what a medical bay looks like. There's tubes, there's a mask, there's a pillow. It's not just Glob Herman bleeding on Magneto's desk.
Correct. Yeah, and then X Infinity is like the cliffhanger, if you call it that, is he says, but once you've healed X-23, we will be having a discussion and you will answer for my friend's death. So he's blaming her for the death? Why?
There's been a hint that this has happened before. Like even in the first issue, one of the escaped X number type people kind of melted down. So these are characters who, there's a thing about identity going on where, we don't call ourselves mutants because we were made like this and this was done to us. And they call themselves the Generated. Appears to be the term for them. At least that's what it says on the cover.
Yeah, so Gabby and Laura are like, you should join up with like an X support group, and they're like, well, we're not mutants, even though they are mutants.
But they're also saying you're not mutants either. You're like us. You were created to be this. And there's kind of like the seed of an idea there, but it's kind of buried under kind of a lot of crap.
Yeah, I feel like this was a step up from issue 1 in the sense that it was like a lot less bullshit, but can you imagine Jim reading this? It's just talking and like nothing happens. And then somebody dies
just blows up at the end. Like.
So, I flipped through it, and it doesn't really deserve a deep dive in any respect. And I imagine we're just going to stop reading this story after these 2 issues. But
I might flip through it, but it's not going to get a lot of airtime.
I think the problem is the naming convention was just a very bad choice, and you gotta
bad idea.
You gotta sell us on caring about these characters, but I don't, and then you just turn them into numbers, and I care even less about them.
They're gonna have to pivot at some point to like X-23. I'm not X-23. Call me Laura.
Yeah,
they're gonna have to give actual names to these characters, but at this point, it feels almost too late.
Yeah.
Okay, that was. So anything else? You want to put a number or something on there? Or?
Yeah, just I think I just have to go to 5. It's not good.
Yep. If you really, really want to see some more Laura and Gabby, here they are.
Yeah.
I'll talk about Rogue for just like a minute. The whole thing with Rogue is there's this person she runs into who's kind of injured, uses a wheelchair, scars on his face, reminds her of something out of her, League of Evil Mutants, not League of Evil Mutants, right? Brotherhood of Evil Mutants past, and she's kind of tracking down what's that all about. So she keeps visiting these different people out of her past, and she touches them, she gets memories from them. It's very video game-like. In this issue, she runs into Constrictor. Constrictor is now, I guess this happened in She-Hulk in a story I didn't read. Constrictor's now this businessman guy. He's running a corporation. A lot of that going around. She ends up touching him, and the memory she gets from Constrictor is back when they were in the Brotherhood. She remembers, from his point of view, that she got into a fight with Sabretooth, touched Sabretooth, drained Sabretooth of those Sabretooth powers, but then she couldn't handle that power, and she kind of goes, I don't want to say rogue, but she kind of loses control after having absorbed the Sabretooth powers. And the implication is maybe that's when she injured this dude.
Yeah.
And we also get a quick scene with this guy. He's in like couples counseling with his wife. And we're told that he has some mutant powers himself, and he calls himself a skunk. He says, I scare people so I can get away safely. But the therapist says, it's a little more traumatic than that. You scare them with the worst thing they've ever done. So it's a bit like the Danny Moonstar Mirage kind of a power, but a little more, personal.
Interesting.
And this feels like it's going very slowly. It's an okay story. The art isn't really to my style. And we're unfolding the secret over so many issues, and the secret does not feel like it's worth all this effort.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm probably the same. I'm going to give this the same basic 5 out of 10. If you really want to see Rogue do a thing, and you're not getting enough Rogue in Uncanny X-Men, and you want to get some flashbacks to her Brotherhood of Evil Mutants days, here you go.
I always feel bad for these characters that are like disabled in the Marvel universe when you've got like Forge and other people that have, mechanical appendages. I'm like, this guy wouldn't be so pissed if you just got him his body back or some kind of body.
It's the same story as a lot of techno stuff. You'd think that in this world, any one of these super techno geniuses could solve the energy crisis, could solve any sort of medical scarcity, could make people live forever and never need wheelchairs or, other, even like braces. Like all these things should be solved, but Marvel doesn't want to set its stories in a world where all the problems are solved. It wants to be the world outside your window. So we still need to have scarcity and energy problems, and we just need to explain away why, the superheroes don't fix that.
And then I want to talk about the very last thing, X-Men of Apocalypse number 3.
Oh, okay, yes. I have not read any of that except the Alpha issue that I did not understand at all. So tell me what I'm missing.
Yeah, this is a waste of a really good artist because it looks beautiful, but it is the biggest pile of dog crap I've read in a long time. And it's gotten worse. I mean, it was already like a basic bitch story. We talked about how this is like a retelling of that terrible Kamala Khan through time story that didn't need to happen. And this is being delayed for this. Like, this is the best you can come up with, and you're getting like extra time to write this story. It's disappointing. So in the last issue, they had jumped in time. The X-Men from the Age of Apocalypse era had jumped from the original X-Men timeline to the Savage Land timeline. And so there's a kernel of interest here. We've got Age of Apocalypse Gambit in a timeline with Rogue. So he sees Rogue, the woman he was unable to get into a relationship with in the Age of Apocalypse timeline.
Right.
And she's
also
here
with
she's also here with Magneto in the Savage Lands, and in the Age of Apocalypse timeline, Magneto and Rogue got married, and Gambit was really good friends with Eric, but always upset that his true love was married to Magneto, not him.
Was that whole love triangle thing?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, you're doing something interesting. Because at first I was like, you're jumping through time. There's no point to this. And I'm like, okay, well, I get it. You're putting this guy in a situation where he's with Rogue and Rogue and Magneto, which would create some tension. But then you just have like an arbitrary, like super awkward thing where he's just like fawning over Rogue in like the worst way possible. And she's like, "Who are you, creep?" And then you just have a big fight between this Savage Land team and the X-Men of Apocalypse. And it looks cool, but it makes no damn sense. And I feel like it's told in a way where it's supposed to be super impactful.
Mm-hmm.
But I think Jeff Loeb, maybe this was one of his favorite stories, but I read it and I was just like, I don't give a damn about this fight at all.
Well, this was originally supposed to be for the big anniversary of the Age of Apocalypse.
Yeah.
And because this was going to come in late, that's why we got the whole Age of Revelation story that went on for so long.
Yeah.
And it's kind of funny that this is so late that it's kind of gone bi-monthly, and we're only on issue 3 all these months after Age of Revelation has completely wrapped up.
Yeah.
It is Simone DeMeo doing her impression of 1990s art. And if you love that art style, I think she does a pretty good version of it. It's just not my favorite style.
Yeah, she does. It looks pretty cool to me. But then they try to you can't change the past, right? Like if you're jumping through time, you're not really affecting anything. You got to reset everything. So at the very end of this,
depends on what your time travel rules are, and who knows.
Yeah. But we get to the point where it's like, okay, all this stuff happens, and then I'm just going to mind whammy you, so you never knew that we were there. But then they spend a ton of time like trying to weave in, like, oh, the X-Men of Apocalypse help those X-Men of that time with their current problem in the Savage Land. And I didn't care for that. Well, I guess I'm not super knowledgeable about that timeline and story, but it just didn't seem necessary. It sort of weakens the original story because you're like, oh, so they got some help from the X-Men of Apocalypse and they couldn't have handled it on their own, right? Because they did in the original story before this was told. So that didn't make sense. And then if you remember maybe you don't, but the X-Men of Apocalypse, their whole goal is to like change the timeline so that like their world exists and the regular 616 X-Men don't.
I vaguely remember that.
So that's been the point. And after they're here to get like a fragment of the Macron crystal for some reason, just because that was a thing in Age of Apocalypse, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but blowing that up at the end was how they kind of ended that story.
Yeah. So they get this crystal, and I guess that's going to help them somehow screw up the timeline and have Charles get killed by Legion so that their world is back. But instead, Gambit, because he sees Rogue, he is like, I can't destroy this world because this is a world where I actually ended up getting in a relationship with Gambit. So he grabs the crystal and like travels in time to somewhere else, screwing up the plan of the X-Men of Apocalypse. So I guess they are now going to be after Gambit in the final issue.
Okay.
And presumably they all die off.
You think so? That's probably what's going to happen. Well, okay, so that was our bonus coverage.
It's just bad. And I'm going to say, I want to score this one because I really hated it. The art is beautiful. The art is beautiful. But this, to me, I was like screaming at it. And I'm not doing a good job of talking about how trash it is. It is just trash. So I'm going to give it a 3 out of 10. And I'm like, thank God this wasn't the like celebration to Age of Apocalypse, because this is not good.
Well, I guess it was a good idea that they switched over to Age of Revelation, which had its moments at least.
Yes. Yeah.
Well, that was a lot of coverage we gave you, folks, so I hope you enjoyed that. Next week, we have not quite as many books. We have the Uncanny Annual, a.k.a. the Uncannual, and we are going to return to the Dark Artery with all that historical stuff going on. We have X-Men 28, where we're going to return to the Danger Room, hopefully move that plot forward a little bit, because X-Men 27 was just jumping back in time and kind of catching back up to the same moment we left off in 26. We have Nova Centurion number 6 next week, which is the final issue of that sadly shortened series. And there's also the Eternals 50th anniversary special next week, which again, not an X book, but we've done some Eternal stuff here. A lot of creators listed for that book, but I checked. I do not see Kieran Gillen on that book, which is unfortunate because I really liked his Eternals.
Yeah, I didn't know about that, though. I'm going to go subscribe to that. You guys know that I'm a huge Eternals fan.
Oh, yeah.
And I really hope somebody's going to pick up the current continuity, right? I want to see what's going on with the Eternals all being worshippers of, I can't remember which one it is. But one of the Eternals is now their new god, right?
Right. I forget what her name is, too. It's one of the...
Makari, I think.
I think it's
Maybe
Makari.
That was it.
Could be. Well, that'll be next week. I guess for recommended reading, what the hell? I'm going to say Next Wave. It's 12 issues. It's there in Marvel Unlimited. And if you read it and you want to explain to me what's going on and why Tim Seeley's story makes a lot more sense than I think it did,
Yeah.
I read some of Next Wave. I read that like when I was first getting back into comics. It was a really poor choice because it was based on, it was intended for people with a deep knowledge of Marvel Comics and were kind of making a satire on it, where I didn't have the background at all. So I read some of it, was confused. Maybe I should go back and read it again. But hey, 12 issues, go check that out. And Ruben, while folks are going through Warren Ellis's back catalog, what else can they do with their valuable spring days and nights?
Read more X-Men comics.
Get ready, everyone, and you just might survive. Ruben and Jason are here with their X-Men deep dive. Going through all the X-books is their mission, so get ready for the learned edition. Things are getting weird in here. Ruben hopes another sword book gets announced this year. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind. It's the Weird Dose of X, the X-Men comic show. It's the Weird Dose of X, guaranteed not to blow, except your mind.
It's like an exhaustive deep dive. It's like an exhaustive deep dive. It's like an exhaustive deep dive. It's like an exhaustive deep